Thanks so much for watching today. I remember when I first started in the workforce. This would have been 1983. I just graduated from college. My wife and I had been married just under a year, and I was making a great big $17,000 a year working in programming in a banking environment. And I can remember my wife saying as we were shopping at Walmart one day for clothes, I remember she said something to the effect of, hey, whenever you start making this much money, which was a little over twice my salary then, we're going to be buying our clothes at Dillard's. Well, let me tell you, that amount has been surpassed, and we do buy our clothes at Dillard's when they are on clearance. And so why am I saying that? Well, because that all ties into our lesson this week about wealth and money and not finding contentment in it. All right. So remember, we're in the unit entitled Finding Meaning, Wisdom from Ecclesiastes. This is week number 5, The Problem with Wealth, out of Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verses 10 through 20. And the point of the lesson is that contentment comes from Christ, not our wealth. Well, just like in my story I told about Dillard's, the more money that comes our way, the more stuff we buy. The bigger the house, usually, the bigger the car, the nicer the car. That means there's more insurance, there's more upkeep, there's more worry. It just is a cycle that never seems to be satisfied. And in Ecclesiastes chapter 5, Solomon looks at this problem, the problem of wealth. And wealth, like everything else he's looked at, including wisdom, never completely satisfies, never brings contentment. You know, you've heard the saying, you can't buy happiness. Actually, I think you can buy happiness. You can buy happiness. Happiness is temporary. You can buy the trip to Disney World. You can buy the new car, even purchase and give in to some of those even sinful cravings. And you can purchase those things, and they do bring happiness, but they don't bring contentment. They don't bring joy. Happiness, yes, because it's for a season, but contentment, no, it doesn't. You can be up on the emotional roller coaster of the high of happiness, but for the long run, money does not buy contentment, okay? We look down at verse 10 of our lesson this week. That's the first verse in our lesson. And Solomon basically says this. He says, whoever loves money won't have enough. They're never satisfied with their income. Now let's remember what the love of money actually is, right? We get that from the New Testament out of 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 10. The love of money is the roots of all kinds of evil, all right? Not money, right? We know that. It's not money that's evil, but the love of it. In fact, Solomon says a little bit later down in our text this week that riches are sometimes from God. And so we're going to see that in a few minutes here. So if you love something, if you can't get enough of it, you're what? You're addicted to it. If you're addicted to alcohol, you just can't get enough. And similarly, if you're addicted to money, you can't get enough of it either. We see in verse 12 that Solomon says that the poor laborer sleeps well, but the rich are staying up at night. They're worrying. What are they worrying about? Well, they're worrying about protecting their wealth, the insurance. How do I get more? Because the more you have, the more you worry about what you have. We're looking down in verse 13. He talks about another grievous evil under the sun, and that is wealth hoarded to the harm of its owners. You know, a person might become so tight and so greedy that they're not willing to spend on their own necessities, okay, to their own harm. You probably have heard stories about rich people who have lived basically in squalor because they were just too tight, didn't want to let go of their money. They may have even been homeless, too afraid to spend any of their money. To me, that definitely is meaningless. It's vanity. It's like chasing after the wind. All right. Here's another way that wealth can harm its owners, and that's through the loss of friendships. I think I've heard the report that a lot of lottery winners have stated that they have lost a lot of their friends due to the envy and the greed of their friends. Also, a rich person can lose their entire wealth due to some misfortune, whether that be a stock market crash or thieves or some natural disaster, or just the poor choices that they make. You know, you've heard the saying, the bigger the tree, the harder it falls. Now that's true with money as well. The more you have, the more you have to lose. We look down in verse 18, and Solomon is winding up here, and he's saying some things that are actually good. You know, a lot of the book is negative. It's kind of depressing. But here he's talking about some things that are good. And just like in our lesson that we had last week, he says it's good to enjoy life, whether you're a laborer and sweat a lot or whether you're rich. In fact, in verse 19, Solomon says, when God gives someone wealth and gives them possessions, and he gives them the ability to enjoy them, for them to accept their lot, their lot in life, and to be happy in their work, that is a gift from God. You see, sometimes riches are a gift from God. So money, riches in and of itself can't be evil if they're from God. And so like we've said before, it's not money, it's the love of it. Okay. Last verse in our text this week is verse 20. Maybe a little bit difficult to understand, and I don't think Solomon is saying that people who accept their lot in life aren't retrospective. You know, that's not that they don't look back and reflect on their life. It's just that they don't choose to obsess on the negative things or the poor choices or the bad things in life, because they're content with what they have. So they don't look back with regret. They're just content. That's basically what Paul says in Philippians chapter 4, isn't it? He's learned to be content in any situation, whether he's rich or poor, hungry, well-fed, all that. Here's a word of warning, though, I'd like to give you, though. Don't confuse contentment with apathy. Don't confuse contentment and apathy. If you just get to the point where you don't care anymore, you might say, oh, I'm just content. That's not good. All right. So we want to be content with what we have. We want to work hard. If we get more in the process, that's great. But we also want to work harder for the kingdom. We want more for the kingdom. All right. So don't confuse contentment and apathy. All right. What do I say at the end of all these? Don't forget to pray for your class. All right. You probably got a lot of folks in your class with various needs, financial needs, relationship needs, emotional, physical, spiritual needs, a whole bunch of things. And you probably know those things the best. So who better to stand in the gap and pray for your class except for you? All right. So don't take that responsibility lightly. Do it. All right. Thanks, guys, for watching. I really appreciate you guys.